Hey everybody, I'm just sitting in my car using my steering wheel as a makeshift phone stand, in a parking lot as I wait for someone to finish an appointment because I want to talk about how this watch really surprised me. This is the Seiko Prospex SRPB53, commonly known as a Seiko Samurai. And yeah, this watch really surprised and I could even say delighted me. And I'm going to talk about why. And when I say this watch surprised me, I mean, it really did surprise me because I did not buy this watch expecting to keep it. Okay, I'm going to be completely honest. I know that this puts me at peril of offending some of the viewers, but I'm a bit of a dirty watch flipper. So sometimes if I see like a really, really good price on a watch, in this case, I was able to get this watch for almost 40% off of retail, which is an amazing deal. If I see a really good deal and I think I can, come out a little ahead or even just break even on flipping it, sometimes I'll just go ahead and do that because my other big hobby is churning credit cards for the, travel points, airline miles and cashback points and so on. And sometimes in order to hit like a big cashback bonus, you need to put a certain minimum spend on your credit card. So, I do that, from time to time, as a little bit of a side hustle. And if I see a watch flipping opportunity that I think I'm unlikely to lose money on, I'll just go ahead and do that. And that was the idea here. It was a great price on this Seiko. Unfortunately, it's no longer in stock at that price, as one might expect. But it was a great price, and figuring that it wouldn't be that hard to at least get my money back, even after PayPal and eBay fees and all that. Went ahead and pulled the trigger. Didn't expect to keep the watch. Thought I would get it in, take a look at it, appreciate it, and then send it right back out to someone as a kind of brand new in box, unworn piece. Just as a pure watch flip. But I like the watch so much that this is now a watch flip fail. Yeah, I mean, I have a few of these. I seem to fail in watch flipping, and the biggest cause of failure is these good failures where I find out that I like a watch a lot more than I was expecting, and so I end up keeping it. So why did this watch surprise me? All right, so let's talk about that. The first big surprise was opening it up was just right away. I was super impressed with how, I don't want to say quality necessarily because it is a Seiko mid-range kind of watch. So it's not luxury quality, but even so, it has great presence. So this is a watch that has really, really impressive presence, I would say. Charisma and presence. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just got a very arresting look. It's quite stunning. This is the commonly known as the Seiko Samurai, and you probably know it's been called that by the community because ever since the original release had the sword and arrow hand, so kind of a martial look. And I think it's a very apt nickname for the watch because the case itself also has this very martial case design, almost very shield-like with lots of sharp angles, and that give it just this angular quality and a very dynamic quality that looks great. It captures the light really well. All of these angles play with the light great, as I'm trying to show you. We have some sun out today, so hopefully that is coming through. And yeah, the I would say the sword and arrow hands, you could say, gleaming in the light. These applied markers look very good. Again, we can't say it's luxury quality levels of finishing. It is a mid-range Seiko in the Prospex, but it looks really good for the price and for what it is. This one has a nice waffle pattern to the dial just to make it a little more dynamic and visually interesting. It's just very, very, and the word that came to mind when I saw it was, oh, that is a sharp-looking watch. So sharp, figuratively and also like literally, it's just sharp. Like these edges are very sharp, very well defined, and look great. So yeah, I opened this up and I saw the watch like, oh, that is a much sharper looking watch than I expected. Of course, I'd seen pictures of it and everything, but just how effectively it looks in the metal, like how arresting it looks in the metal, doesn't really come through in the photos. Like until I actually got it in my hands, I didn't was not expecting to find this watch to look that good. So that's the first thing that surprised me about it. So yeah, I mean, I opened it up, I was like, oh, that looks really good. I showed it to my wife, and she normally really hates dive watches, but she really liked this one. She's like, oh, she said the same thing I did. That is a very sharp looking watch. So we both really liked it, and I figured, well, you know what? I don't have to take the stickers off to try it on. So let me just put it on my wrist and see how it looks. And that's the second thing about this watch that's really surprised me. And that's how well it looked on my wrist, because this is a 43.8 millimeter watch. So, and if you read about this model line, the Seiko Samurais, everyone will tell you, all the writers will tell you, yes, 44 millimeters, but it wears small. It wears small. So you don't have to worry, it wears small. And I mean, I knew that, but my wrists are so small that I figured, like, yeah, a 44 millimeter watch that wears small maybe wears like a 42. That's probably still too big for me, because I like to wear like 38 to 40 and only sometimes 42. But when I put this on, like, and I'm going to see if I can get a good shot of my wrist here and my dashboard blocking my way. But you can see, like, yes, it's a large looking watch, but it looks good, like it works on the wrist, even with my small, I've got like 6 to 6.25 inch wrist. So my wrists are tiny and it works pretty well. Like, it's a watch that, clearly it is a large watch. It has a lot of presence, like I was saying before, a great presence, but it doesn't look comically oversized. So I think, this is a watch that I'm happy to wear. All right, so I got it off the wrist. And as I was saying, yeah, if you think this watch is too big for you just because it's 44 millimeters, all I can say is you really have to give it a shot. Like, try it on, and you could be just as surprised as I was. I think it would work for, I would say, 95% of everybody, not just men. Like, my wife tried on the watch. It looks great on her. Her wrists are even smaller than mine. So yes, if your wrists are like maybe 5 inches or something, you're an incredibly petite woman, then perhaps it won't work on you. But I would say for 95% of people, men or women, you can wear this watch. Like, of course, if your wrists are small, because it wears so small, it'll just look like a large watch on your wrist. And even if you have larger wrists, because it is a watch with such great presence, even someone with very big wrists can wear this watch, and it won't look like it's too small for your wrists. It'll just look like again, that watch, that great presence on the wrist is going to come through. So yeah, I would say size-wise, 44 millimeter or 43.8 on spec, but just don't let that scare you off. It's most likely not too big for you. And I say that as someone who, I like to wear, like I said, 38 to 40, and even sometimes I prefer the vintage sizes, like 34, 36. So like 42 is, in the past, 42 millimeter watches were about as high as I was willing to go if it was a small wearing 42 millimeter watch. But no, this one works as well. So yeah, really excited about that, about having this watch that just, despite having such great wrist presence and being such a large watch, just works very well on my small wrist. So that's the second thing that really surprised me. And after I put it on and saw how it looked on my wrist, like what a great fit it was. Even at this size, I think it's partly thanks to relatively compact lug to lug. I believe it's just like 48 or 49 millimeters. That's when it truly became a watch flip fail, because I peeled off the stickers. I'm like, yeah, we're keeping this one. My wife liked it, I liked it, and the price was not bad, so I was happy to peel off the stickers and keep it. Unlikely I'll be able to sell it to make my money back, especially after fees and all of that, but I don't mind, because it just means I found a new watch that I really enjoy. So those are the two things about it that really surprised me, really delighted me, and why I now have another Seiko. It's not my first Seiko, so I have to say, like, but I am a little bit surprised at how much I like this Seiko. So my previous Seiko was a Seiko 5. It was my first mechanical watch. I think it's like many people, I started with a Seiko 5. But, and then I bought a Seiko 5 and like one or two other cheap watches. And then I got like a Junghans, a Longines, and then within like a month or two, I had bought a Rolex. So I don't want to say I left Seiko behind very quickly. But we can say maybe I moved on from Seiko fairly quickly. I just started gravitating more to the luxury end of the spectrum. And I didn't really explore all that was available in the Seiko product line. And now I'm kind of feeling like I should have given it another look, because this is, like I said, this is something that surprised me, how much I like this Seiko. Most of the other relatively affordable watches that I owned, I thought they were fine for what they were, but I just was not nearly as impressed by them as I am by this Seiko Samurai. So yeah, overall, a watch that surprised me a lot in a very good way, for all of those reasons. What don't I like about it so much? Well, I mean, it's not perfect, and on the other hand, it is just like $495 retail, and then you can usually get some kind of discount on it. Maybe not as much as I got, but usually you can probably get it for like 20-25% off if you wait for a sale at the department store or negotiate a bit. Um, but it's not perfect. Some things I don't like about it: the strap. I mean, Seiko with their straps, like here, I actually think the buckle and this metal keeper are pretty nice, but the rubber strap here, it's not great. Like, it's not very comfortable to wear. It doesn't look very good, so I'm probably going to change the strap on this. Maybe I'll put it on like a Barton leather strap or get like a aftermarket metal strap. It does also come with a metal bracelet. Some of the models do, but I mean, Seiko metal bracelets, again, not the best in general. So yeah, that's a little bit of a disappointment, I would say, the strap, but I think that's something that people know to expect when they get a Seiko, or I mean, even a Grand Seiko, which is an amazing watch, is like oftentimes the bracelet or the strap is the least good thing about them. So yeah, that's not ideal, but that's a fairly easy thing that you can fix on your own. You can just get a nice strap or a nice quality aftermarket bracelet that you really like. So that's all right. The bezel action. All right. So the bezel action on this, it's fine. Like it's not. I would say it's not a pleasure to use. So whereas like this watch is a pleasure to wear on the wrist and to look at, operating the bezel, I mean, it just takes a little more force than I would like. And yet, even so, even with taking all that extra force, it doesn't feel very precise. So it's a little bit mushy. Again, it works. It gets the job done. You can turn the bezel. I think part of the problem is this edge here to the bezel. It looks good, but it doesn't have very good grip, I have to say. And that's a little bit of a pain, especially because the way that I use dive watches, actually, I love using the timing bezel on dive watches, but I mostly use it in the kitchen. So for me, it's more a pasta bezel than a pizza bezel. But yeah, if my hands are greasy, it can actually be a little bit difficult to operate this bezel, I have to say. So that's a little bit disappointing. So number 2 is the bezel. All right, so number 3 thing I didn't like so much about this watch, the movement. So okay, objectively, it's a solid movement. All right, the 4R movement that's in here is pretty well regarded. It's very robust. It's in-house Seiko caliber movement. So it's a fine movement, but it does beat at just 3 hertz, or that's 6 ticks per second, because every half an oscillation, the seconds hand will move 1 tick. So 3 hertz is fine, like it's within kind of the standard. For usually, like a watch movement is ticking between 3 to 5 hertz. 4 hertz, I guess, is what you'd see more often. And I just prefer like the smoother seconds hand sweep of a 4 hertz movement. So that's ticking 8 times a second. All right, and there I found a shot of the engraving on the back, 4R35 movement. So yeah, as I was saying, like, I would prefer that it's 8 ticks a second or 5 hertz, 4 hertz at least for the smoother sweep. But I can't say that the 3 hertz movement is like strictly worse, or 3 hertz is strictly worse than 4, because while it's objectively jerkier seconds hand movement, there are ways in which the lower beat rate is an advantage, right? Like you get longer power reserve, because every time the movement oscillates, that's just additional power being consumed and additional wear on the watch. So you could make the argument that for a tool watch that's intended to be more practical, this is a Prospex dive watch, it makes sense it's true to the spirit of the watch that it's the slightly more practical, slightly less perhaps elegant, one could say, 3 hertz movement as opposed to 4 hertz movement. So I mean, but that's just something, my personal preference, though. Despite that being a trade-off, I usually prefer that that's a trade-off that's made. I just like a nice smooth second hand sweep. I find that very soothing, and this one's not as smooth as I would like. So that's kind of a negative for me, although like I said, that's just a subjective and aesthetic choice that's a trade-off that's made, legitimate trade-off that can be made when you are choosing what to do for your watch movement. So I don't like that quite so much. Also, the crystal here, the crystal is Hardlex mineral. It's not a sapphire crystal, and and kind of at around $400, $400 or $500, you do see quite a few micro brands come in now with sapphire crystals. Sapphire is generally considered nicer than mineral crystal. Though again, you could make the argument for a tool watch and a dive watch because sapphire scratches less easily but shatters more easily, that you would rather have your watch, crack than shatter when it's a dive watch. Most people prefer sapphire though. So yes, there's an argument to be made for not using sapphire in a dive watch, but I think here it would have been nice to see it in this price range, Seiko, kind of step up to a sapphire crystal. But that's not here. Also, the bezel is just aluminum, though. In this case, an aluminum bezel on a $500 watch, $400 watch, or even $500 watch, I think that's acceptable. I think generally you have to get up to $1,000 or more before you start seeing ceramic bezels. So, although it certainly would be cool if it was a aluminum bezel, it would be cool if it was a sapphire bezel, and I'm sure there's people who have modded their Samurais to stick ceramic bezels in there. It comes stock on an aluminum bezel, so that's just, I would say that's acceptable. It could be even better, but for the price range it sits in, I think it's fine. So, I feel like I spent a lot of time talking about the negatives of this watch, and that's not because there's so many of them. It's just because all the negatives are such niggling little details, that you really have to go in depth and to talk about them, and you really have to just place them in the appropriate context even, because like I said, in many cases one could make an argument that the things that I perceive to be negatives about this watch are really just legitimate trade-offs or things choices that they made that were more in the spirit of the kind of dive watch they were building. Oh yeah, that's another thing, the drilled lug holes. I love that it has drilled lug holes. That's something else I really like about it. I always like when a watch has drilled lug holes. I guess it's a good thing it has drilled lug holes, because you're going to want to replace the strap, because the strap is not great. But I think more tool watches should have drilled lug holes. Like I wish Rolex didn't move away from drilled lug holes on their tool watches. But this one has got it, so that's great. So those are the cons. So it's not a perfect watch, but for the price that you pay for this, again, the retail is $495 for this model. This model is the SRPB53. There's a whole range of Seiko Samurais, and they come in a variety of different colorways, the same case design, and there's one with there's the Save the Ocean dial with very nice cerulean blue. There's some different wavy dials. There's more simple black dials. So there's one stylistically that you will like for sure, and it will work on your wrist even if you have small wrists. $495 retail. You're probably not going to find it for 40% off again. Just being honest. But you could certainly find it probably for 20-25% off if you wait for a sale or go to the gray market. And at that price, it's definitely worth it, even at the full retail price. If you paid full retail for it, you could have got it for a little cheaper, but at that price, you're getting there's not a lot of watches that are better than that. There's some micro brands that are better in certain ways, maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe of Laurier here, or just some of those, micro brands that have been really killing it in the vintage homage vintage dive watches. But and sometimes you can get a nice Swiss watch on discount for around that price. But even at $500, I think this is just the charisma that this watch has, and the great presence, the great angles, and how it plays with the light. The sun is out, so you can hopefully some of that is being captured here. It's fantastic. So I really dig this watch. That's the Seiko Samurai. I hope you all try it out. And I think, if you are shying away from this watch because of the size, because you figure even a 44mm watch that wears small is too big for you, give it a shot. It might surprise you just as much as it did me. All right. That's pretty much all I've got to say about it. Hope you learned a bit, and I hope you all try a Seiko Samurai of your own, because it's a sweet watch. I'm gonna see if I can get it on my wrist for a second. That's the Seiko Samurai. This one's the SRPB53, and I think this one's great, but there's some other ones in the model line that are also amazing, and I recommend you check it out. Thanks.